Hi, I'm Turgle, and this is a tier list of the Final Fantasy XIV A Realm Reborn trials based on how they probably smell. Let's get started. The Bowl of Embers. A common theme amongst much of the trials in this game is that a single big monster isn't really inherently that stinky. Ifrit's a really good example of this. He's covered in scales, he's like a Ripley looking ass primal, and he probably doesn't smell like much. Of course, the border of the arena is doused in flames, and it plumes into smoke and rises into the sky, so the burning ground and smoke likely permeates the air. Also, interestingly, Ifrit says, "Yet I smell not the taint of another upon thee, thou art of the godless blessed's number," in reference to the blessing of Hydaelyn. Taint of another, I suppose, would mean the blessing of another god, so if the Warrior of Light was blessed by someone else, would they stink? But they're not, so it's just an interesting tidbit. C tier, because I can't imagine wanting to breathe in all that smoke. The Navel. The Navel is the first real stinker on this list, and it'll be the only one for quite some time. Titan is, lore-wise, the father of the kobolds. He's basically a giant kobold himself. And as far as high fantasy monster races go, kobolds don't look like the stinkiest, but they certainly don't smell good. Additionally, partway through the fight, Titan's heart is exposed, and the Warriors of Light deal with it. So effectively, the Navel is open heart surgery on a giant version of one of the game's smellier monsters. F tier. The Howling Eye. The cool thing about the fight against Garuda is that it takes place in the literal eye of a storm. With the wind rushing around you like that, you could probably fart and it'd just be blown away. It's like fighting in a wind tunnel, but the wind tunnel is outside and it's grassy. It smells like a fresh breeze. A tier. Cape Westwind. Alright, you fought gods, you fought primals, and you've broken the ranks of the Garlean Empire and created a spark of hope that will light the fire of revolution. And now, nearing the game's grand finale, you're tasked to take down a dude with two shields. Yeah, twice as much blocking, I guess. He brings in more dudes, but they're just like the same Imperial soldiers you've killed dozens of times. I don't know. He probably showers, I guess, A tier. The Chrysalis. Alright, so you remember how the last guy was like a total pushover? Well, this fight is a step in the entirely opposite direction. This Ascian almost certainly has the highest power level we've seen of someone so far. This fight takes place in a pocket dimension of his creation, and during said fight, he takes us to a time dimension within the pocket dimension. What? What does the time dimension smell like? What happens if you fart in the time dimension? What happens if you fart just before going into the time dimension, like you're popping a long cooldown that gets extended by the time dimension? None of these questions have answers, and just so I don't spend the rest of the video talking about the fight, and trust me, I could, we're gonna assume our boy Nabriales bathes semi-regularly and give him A tier. What the fuck even is the time dimension? The Steps of Faith. Alright, I've had controversial opinions about dragons in the past, and while I'd love to spit in everyone's faces and claim that I think Bishap smells like ass, I won't. Dragons are just big lizards, and with lizards, don't smell like much. Additionally, the fight happens out over on a beautiful bridge between the mainland and Ishgard, presumably with a cool breeze blowing over it and sweeping away the smell of gunpowder and unwashed soldiers assisting you. B tier. It would get an A, but I'm biased against dragons. I just don't think they smell good. A Relic Reborn, the Chimera. 3 heads, thrice the stinky dog breath. C tier. A Relic Reborn, the Hydra. B tier, to appease you dragon lovers who just don't believe me. Battle on the Big Bridge. A fight against the notorious Gilgamesh was welcome in Final Fantasy XIV, and his defeat opens up a cool opportunity for future expansions to come up with fresh new villains and not be burdened by the expectation of reusing a classic Final Fantasy villain. And while Ganondorf himself and the locale seems pretty fresh, he does turn a bunch of players into frogs during the fight, and I draw the line at amphibians. Sure, lizards might smell fine, smell like nothing, but there's no way toads aren't stinky. F tier for frogs. Actually, not putting it there, I just thought F for frogs was funny. That's way too low, it doesn't make any sense. It's like B tier.
You so fucking precious when you smile. hit it from the back and drive you wild.
This is what it looks like up
Girl, I lose myself up in those eyes. I just had to let you know you're mine.
Battle in the Big Keep. An impressive arena for a legendary fight against none other than. Oh, wait a minute, this is fucking Gilgamesh again. How'd you get back in here? Oh, go back to B tier, you asshole. Thorn March. Moogles smell like candy, and their little baubles taste like gushers. I will not be taking questions. S tier. The Whirl Eater. Smells like fish. The Striking Tree. Canonically, Ramu is actually incredibly chill. He's such a nice dude that I'd hate to accuse him of, smelling like old people, because all he really wants to do is keep the peace, and he's willing to help out the Warrior of Light. That being said, no matter if they're good or evil, old people still always have a distinct old people scent. But Ramu, being the cool grandpa he is, probably smells more like Bill Murray, or your cool older uncle. A tier. Ak-Afa Amphitheater. Now in the last video, I made the assertion that just because a female boss was attractive, they probably smell good. And for that gross generalization, I apologize. It was out of line, and totally illogical. You know what? I'm gonna fucking do it again. Iceheart smells good. Shiva smells good. I'm down so fucking bad. S tier. Earth's Found. Whether or not the fight against Odin smells good is entirely dependent of your opinion of horses. I really don't have much more to say. Horse tier for smelling like a horse.